Most of the people already know us. My name is Conrad from the group of EuroBrazil Invest. We started in Brazil 6 years ago, and it's quite remarkable to be now in 2010 on OPP Live. And 5 years ago, on the first OPP Live in London, in the Natural History Museum, I was sitting next to Xavier Wiggins, the owner of OPP, and we had a chat about Brazil, because at that moment we were starting our first resort in Natal, and he said, Conrad, what the hell are you going to do in Brazil, mate? I said, well, I think Brazil maybe is something for the future, because we were developing lifestyle resorts, and Brazil of course has this great lifestyle, because most of the people, they know this country about the football, about the carnival, they know the samba and the great beaches. And as we were resort developers, we said, well, let's try it, let's give it a try. And one day, the owner of Capuch, Edson Matias, is the biggest constructor from Natal, together with this company called EuroBrazil. And they were in our office and they said, listen, guys, would you be interested to develop a resort together with us? So that's what we did. And so we created a new company called Sol Nathalie, and we went for the Brazilian market. In the meantime, we bought more land, also in the direction of Pipa. We bought 560 hectares more. And we started selling some stuff out in Brazil, just trying the market. And things went well, so we were selling rapidly, one a day, but then the market changed, as we all know. So from one a day, we went to one a week, to one a month, to not selling anything anymore. And then you're based in Brazil, you get your whole family over there, you got your office infrastructure, you have all these investments in marketing. And then what's next? Because there's no European buyer anymore. There's some European buyers, because people sitting over here that did still very well, but they were the best in business, I think, at this moment. But for us, being resort developers, being investment advisors, for us it was clear we missed the rabbit, because we went there for the international market, and we were lucky, because as Luis Diaz, owner of Alianza, a good friend of mine, and he's the biggest one in social housing, together with Modulo, and they have 5 projects lined up with the Caixa Econômica at this moment. He said, Conrad, you came to shoot the rabbit, but you definitely hit the deer. And that's something which we can confirm at this moment, because we all know about the Brazilian local market, which has nothing to do with this great lifestyle, which I enjoy in Brazil. But of course, in the end, we need to make our money. Is the fact that we're 7.2 million property short in Brazil. And this is a photo which I shot last weekend in Sao Paulo. And if you look to the number of favelas, the number of people still living in poor living conditions, which at this moment are being helped by the Brazilian government to get access to their first property, there's still a lot of work to do. On 200 meters from this favela, you see these apartment blocks being lined up. Apartment blocks of 8-9 stories, selling like hotcakes. Why? Because there's 100% finance for the consumers at 5%. So this is a huge market. A social house, affordable house. Well, don't think about this favela which you just seen, because these show houses, these blocks of finished products, this is an affordable house in Brazil. This stuff is selling for 25 to 30,000 pounds. You ask yourself, how can you make it? That's the challenge. You know, it's a very interesting market. There's no exit strategy, but you have to control your costs very well. Well, given the people in the room, I think it's no use to talk a lot about why invest in Brazil. Most people know about it, why invest in social housing, but how can we profit from it? Because we are all looking to this great opportunity happening in Brazil, about this great social housing market, everyone is jumping on, but we find the problem about single investors making use of this market. Of course you can develop a fund, and that's what our investor friends Ignition did. It's very interesting, but it gives problems for agents, for example like Steve, to market, because of course we're FSA regulated. So that's the solution which we need to find. I know that Rob, I think you're doing something in America, isn't it? Yes. And so I think the solution is over there, to structure a way of a business in which you as an agent, at least you are allowed to sell to the UK market. Let's go quickly through the stuff of Brazil. All based about sustainable property growth. Is this another property bubble? Well, we don't think so. Ernst & Young don't think so. Not the Getúlio Vargas Foundation, which is the main research institute in Brazil. We at this moment we are on 165 billion reais investment. going up to 2030 to 447 billion. So we're not at the first beginning of the life cycle, but we are well on the way, which is a great moment to step in, because we're not anymore in a speculative market. It's already a market which is maturing, but there is still a long way to go. Well, what does this housing growth drive? Well, the best picture, which all of us love, is the fact that Brazil only has 4% of the GDP financed. And we know that all the shit which we're cleaning at this moment all around the world, all has been based by all the leverage which all the banks have been promising to the customers. So Brazil, as it was so conservative, doesn't have it. When I came to Brazil, there was no finance. Nobody could get a mortgage. Then 3-4 years ago, the big constructors like Capuch, they offered a 50 years financed by the developer. And properties they were selling like hotcakes. They sold 3 towers in about 10 days. Then around 2-3 years ago, we got 2 years more or less, we got private finance, still at rates of 16%, 18%, including inflation correction. Things were flying. Only Rio Grande do Norte over 1 million mortgages a year in a small province. People paying 18% interest rate. Over here we're talking about going to a bank, we pay 5-6%. And over here still a lot of people who keep the money on the bank account for 2-3% yield. In Brazil, people are happy, more than happy to pay 16, 17, 18%, including inflation correction, to be able to buy that property. Yeah. In the end, we need families. When we look to Europe, my business for 7 years has been active retirement. Europe is great. We don't have new families. The number of kids per family is very low. Brazil is expecting still 30 million new families until 2030. Most important is these families have money to spend. And when we look to the growth of the family income, and we see that the highest growth is especially in the higher income brackets. So we don't only see the middle class developing, we also see the average incomes, especially at the higher side, going up in the future. And we all know the people present over here, everyone is focusing on this part. It's the upcoming middle class. Every year we get over 5 million new people into the middle class. 5 million people which couldn't consume and which now can start consuming. And you see it on the street, just like you feel on the street when you walk into Marbella. I mean, Rob is moving to Brazil too. He's headed in Spain. All of us who have a little bit of business sense and who are living in Europe, you feel on the street that this is not going well. You go to Brazil and you feel the hype, and you see people buying new cars, you see people being able to buy computers, and the stores are packed. So it's a new consumer society being established, and people get access to finance. And the finance was at interest rates of 27, 28% 7 years ago, coming down to interest rates of 12% 3 years ago. Now interest rates are 9%. On top of all of this, on top of this stability, which has been created all the time, on top of the events which we've got coming up, like a World Cup, like Olympics, we've got the most important part of the opportunity, which is the Minha Casa Minha Vida program. The Brazilian government is saying, listen, if you have 7 million people which don't have a decent home because they're still families packed together, yeah, you get 15 people, 16 people living in one house, you got people living in poor living conditions. Well, let's use our pension funds, which we have available, which we have a lot of capital of, and yet let's use it for the construction. Well, that's what started, and now people which have a salary between 1 and 3 incomes, which is salaries, people with up to 1,500 reais more or less per month, which would be like 600 pounds, 500 pounds. These people make access at this moment to get a house from the government. They only pay 10% of their family income during the next 10 years, and then the house is theirs. Yeah. Next to that, we have also the opportunity of selling social houses, selling affordable houses to the market. Consumers having 90%, 100% finance available from this Caixa Econômica. People can't earn more than 10 salaries. So the minimum salary is 3 salaries, the maximum salary is 10 salaries. These customers, when they buy, for example, 80,000 reais affordable house, they can get up to 17,000 reais subsidy from the government. They can use their own pension fund, their own FGTS, and the money which they're missing, they can borrow at 5 to 6%. And yes, this is the same country where 3 years ago was no mortgage present. At this moment, people can mortgage at 5%, 6% maximum per year. This is something for free. Tell a Brazilian which is paying